I love Jeremy, but this is loser behavior. Like, Susie does not want you. Susie don't want you. Hi everyone, my name is Dimitri and welcome back to DimitriTube. Bachelor in Paradise Night 5, let's talk about it. As always, if you're enjoying my videos, please go ahead and pound that like button, pound that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell. I'm a growing YouTuber and the like subscribes really help me out. Let me know what you think in the comments, but I think this was the funnest episode so far. It was not like an amazing episode, but it was a fun episode to watch. And just two quick things before we get started. First, I apologize for the delay on this video. My job is in the busy season and normally the busier season happens in August, but it came early. Very annoying. Next, we're on episode 5 of the season and I came to a conclusion. I do not like the pool. It looks low budget. And like, I don't have anything against the pool itself. I tend to prefer pools over beaches myself, but from a video standpoint, it looked way more glamorous when they were filming mostly on a beach and now we're filming mostly poolside. It's just not as glamorous. And like, now that we're on episode 5 and I just keep seeing them hanging out the pool, it's just not, I just don't think it's glamorous. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. First up, we're gonna talk about some of the Goldens. So there's a new Golden who enters the beach, Faith, and she comes in riding on a horse, and y'all, Faith came in hot. This was easily one of the best entrances I've seen on the show, maybe ever. And y'all may have not caught this, and I've slightly touched on this before, but it's so interesting to see how the Goldens date versus how the younger contestants date. As soon as Faith got to Paradise, who is it? Kim and Keith tried to talk to her, immediately say hello, welcome to her to the beach or whatever. But the younger contestants would never do that. The guys would kind of just hang back and let her get acquainted with the beach and eventually they would say hello. And it's just so interesting to me because in dating and dating culture now, there's this war on effort. And it's not just men who are the problem, it's women too. Like, to me, that makes sense. Like, Keith and Kim are saying hello to Faith, welcoming her to the beach to show that they're interested. That makes sense. But the younger guys do not do that because they don't want to seem pressed. Like, they don't want to seem too thirsty. So they, like, the younger guys most likely would never do that. And not only that, a lot of women will find it cringe, or if a guy does that, they'll accuse them of being too pressed. So it's not just men that are the problem. Women can be the problem in this situation too. But again, I'm not pointing fingers, but it's just interesting to note. And another quick sidebar, enough with the body shots. I'm already tired of the body shots. We don't have to keep doing this. And also, I don't really care for Kathy. 2 of the contestants were about to do a body shot and Kathy is like, no, think of your children, think of your grandchildren. Like, girl, stop. We barely have storylines. Please let them do something crazy. And then later on in the episode, Kim and Faith connect and they connect very well. And Kathy in a confessional, I'm pretty sure it was in a confessional, says she doesn't think Kim and Faith would be a good match due to their personalities, yada, yada, yada. And like, we barely have connections on this beach as is. Kathy, we don't need you discouraging the few connections that we have. Anyways, back to Faith. So Faith gets a date card, and for the date, she gets to go horseback riding. She wants to take Kim on the date, but Kim ends up having a heart issue and has to go to the hospital. Kim was so stressed out because of the rose ceremony, it got his heart rate up. Like, so that's pretty adorable. But also, like, these Goldens cannot take. So Faith ends up taking Kathy on the horseback riding date, and it was like a sisterhood moment. She conquered her fear of horseback riding, and like, that's fine, but I didn't really care. I would have rather Faith taken maybe another person of interest. I don't think contestants should be able to choose friends for a date, but here we are. It's just when they do that, the show just feels like it has no stakes. And I prefer there to be some stakes. And speaking of stakes, so this is gonna turn into a game show and they're gonna compete for $500,000, but is this also supposed to end in an engagement too? Because that just seems like a lot. That seems like a lot to do in about 5 episodes. And that's assuming they have 10 episodes this season. Next, let's talk about Jonathan and Leia. So they go on a picnic and they drink coconut milk from a coconut. And that was the date. So in Bachelor and Paradise in general, the dates continually get worse and worse. But this season, the dates are horrible. Like, we are at a point where, you know, I'd rather them just not have dates at all. Just have them hang out on the beach like Love Island. And Jonathan and Leia have zero connection. It's tough to explain, but this date feels like they met online and then met in person, and they both realized there was zero connection, but they're still on this date, and like for some reason they still have to be there. Like it's very awkward. Next, let's talk about Jeremy. Y'all know Jeremy is my favorite this season, but after this episode, I truly don't know how much longer I can keep defending him. Jeremy tries to avoid talking on the microphone, but ABC and production still was able to pick up what he said on the microphone. And slight sidebar, I don't love this setup. Like when they were in Mexico, it was better. I think it was because all the men bunked in a room together and then all the women bunked in a room together. There was not a lot of opportunity to speak off camera or off microphone. And for this Costa Rica location, they're in a hotel, so everyone kind of gets their own room. Like yes, they have to bunk with one other person, but this is just not a good setup for reality TV because the way it's set up, it just seems to be there's a lot of opportunity to talk off camera and off the microphone, and for reality TV you don't want that. And this is one of the bonuses of Love Island, because on Love Island they are filmed and on microphone like 24/7, and it's actually pretty fascinating. But the only thing about doing that, it turns the show into more of like a Big Brother type of thing, and I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. Anyways, Jeremy tries to avoid talking on the microphone, and he says, I don't want to win with Bailey. He says he messed up not giving the rose to Susie. I love Jeremy, but this is loser behavior. Like Susie does not want you. Susie don't want you. If you want Susie, but now you're stringing along Bailey because you lost Susie, you just need to go home. This is absolute loser behavior. And then there was another camera moment where Jeremy said, I think there's a chance Susie will come back or something. So I don't know if like production did an editing trick and this was like not filmed in order, but like Susie said she ain't coming back. So I don't know why Jeremy thinks that there's a chance she's still gonna come back. Let's unpack this. This is very simple. In general, people want what they can't have, and Jeremy could not have Susie, so he just wants what he can't have. And this is very much dating app culture. Jeremy has something great with Bailey. Things are going well. He's at least a little bit into her, but he swiped right on Susie. She's the next best thing. She's something new, and Jeremy wants to explore that. Like I really don't even think it's deeper than that. I don't know if I explained this well, but it's very much that idea of like endless options. Like Bailey is great and they can have a relationship, etc. But at the same time, he also wants to see what else is out there. And this is the last thing I want to say about Jeremy. It's clear to me Jeremy is a guy who has like never had options before. And to me, this just feels like this is one of the first few times in his life he's had like multiple options to pick from. And I believe this even more because if you watch Jen's season, Jen and Jeremy had a one-on-one date, and Jeremy explained how he like used to be overweight, but then in college he like lost a lot of weight. And this is just my opinion, feel free to disagree, but I've known a few people in my life who were like overweight or fat when they were younger, and then they ended up losing all the weight, and after they lost the weight they got more attention from like potential partners, dates, whatever. And after they lost the weight, they started getting this new attention, but they like couldn't handle it. They almost like couldn't believe it's real because like in their heads they still saw themselves as that like former fat person. And like I said earlier, this is a very deep read, but that's what I see in Jeremy. Like Jeremy is getting all this attention and he just does not know how to handle it. He does not have the experience and he's just not used to this. So he's figuring out how to navigate it. And please do not get it twisted. I am not excusing his behavior. This behavior is still trash, but to me, I think that's why he's acting like this. And one last thing I need to point out. So when Jeremy was trying to talk off mic, he was talking to Brian. And I don't know if y'all caught this, but Brian should have called him out in that moment and told him what he was doing is wrong. Like he should have done that, but Brian doesn't seem to be a good person, so I was not expecting him to do that. And the only reason I want to point this out is because in a confessional and in previews, Brian is like, oh, I have information that will ruin you and Bailey, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, Brian could have called Jeremy out in that moment, but instead he wants to use the information against Jeremy and then hurt Bailey. Like it really does not need to go to that level, but it just shows like Brian's just really not a good person. And if Brian does divulge this information, Bailey is gonna catch a stray like no other, and I really hope that doesn't happen because she really doesn't deserve that. But on the bright side, Jeremy looked amazing during the chemistry test. For the next chemistry test, the men dressed up as birds and had to dance and do a mating call for all the women, and the women dressed up for this as well. And just like the dates this season, this challenge was terrible. I did not like it, but somehow Paresa and Brian won. So Paresa and Brian ended up winning a night in the VIP suite, and after a couple hours in the VIP suite, I think Paresa realized that she didn't actually win. So let me know below in the comments what y'all thought of the Paresa and Brian drama, because I wasn't fully certain what to make of it. But Paresa and Brian go to the VIP suite, and by the way, Paresa seemed really tipsy to me. They're in the pool. Paresa is making like silly small talk. She asks him what's his favorite color, and it rubbed Brian the wrong way, and he like got upset and kind of swam to another part of the pool. So this is just what I think happened. It feels like we missed a chunk of this story. Like, I don't know what we're missing, but it feels like we missed a chunk. Also, Brian is hot, but he's very much a bro, and he's not very good with women. I don't know. He's a little douchey, and I don't know. Maybe that worked better for him when he was younger, or maybe that works where he's from or something. But to me, he just doesn't seem very good with women in terms of like communicating and like making them feel good, if that makes sense. And the other possibility is that Brian is just moody. Paresa does say that he can be moody and gets in moods, and maybe he was just like kind of in a bad mood that evening, which could also be it. But if that's the case, I would not be able to date him. I personally cannot stand moody people. Also, normally if a person is in a bad mood, hanging with other people, especially other people they like, would elevate their mood. So if he was in a bad mood and then he started hanging with Paresa and he's still in a bad mood, that's really not a good sign. And last thing I want to say about this, later in the episode, Paresa admits to a confessional and to another person that she regretted going to the VIP suite with him. And not only that, she's having a one-on-one with her roommate or one of the other women contestants, and she says that Brian threw a tantrum. Even though he threw a tantrum, she was still intimate with him, and she admitted that. She didn't say exactly what they did, but she did admit that they were still intimate. And I just thought that was interesting because that just shows Paresa is clearly ignoring red flags. Next, let's talk about Jill. So Alicia is the new bombshell, and she entered Paradise, and after like the chemistry test, Alicia has a conversation with Sean, I believe, and Jill completely spirals. So just a few things I want to say about this. This is Jill's second or third time in Paradise. Does she not know what she signed up for? This is the name of the game. You date someone and then production tries to ruin it. Like that's how this goes. Next, the insecurity is off the charts. Alicia had one conversation with Sean and she spirals this bad and ends up going home like zero confidence. Next, Jill has a moment with production, and production's clearly trying to get her to stay, and Jill is like fighting. She does not want to stay. And I was like, please let her go. Please do not keep her. Let her go home. I'm so tired of her. And don't get me wrong, I understand why Jill wants to leave. She doesn't have a connection, yada, yada, yada. But also at the same time, is this not a beach vacation? Like, are you clamoring to get back home to Rhode Island? Like, you're literally hanging out the pool all day with your friends. Can we look at the bright side? So what if you don't find love? And at one point, Jill, I think, says in a confessional, I don't want to be the funny friend anymore. Well, if that's the case, why are you doing all of this in the confessionals? Like, why are you doing all that? I think her confessionals are annoying and she's doing the absolute most, but she thinks she's funny. If you don't want to be funny, why are you doing all that, girl? So Jill ends up self-eliminating and going home, and I found this a little more annoying because like we could have kept Allie Joe. What are we doing? And the last thing I want to point out about this is Jill was very upset that she was constantly friend zoned, but like, do you know who was more friend zoned than her? Jonathan. Jonathan has been friend zoned every week since week 1. Literally a Golden had to give him a rose so he could stay on the show. Like, there hasn't been anyone more friend zoned than him, and Jonathan's chilling. He's still hanging on this beach, enjoying their experience. It's just interesting how Jill and Jonathan are very much going through the same thing, but Jill completely spirals and has to self-eliminate, and Jonathan's just kind of hanging out. Next, throughout the episode, during night portions, there was this like flashing light. It almost looked like a police light, and it was very annoying. Was I the only one who saw that, or did anyone else catch that? And lastly, for the review, so Alicia is the new bombshell on the beach. She's trying to decide between taking Dale and Sean out for the date. She's way more into Dale and does all these dramatics, but she ends up taking Sean on a date. Alicia and Sean have a great date. They like smell things. Well, the date itself was terrible, but I did think they have a connection. But after the date, when we go to the cocktail party, we find out that Alicia's still interested in Dale and possibly wants to pursue that. And Alicia totally fumbled because she could have asked Dale out on a date. That was her opportunity, and she fumbled by asking Sean. So here you go. And I actually wish she did ask Dale because we're kind of dry on storylines, and that would have been a great storyline, but here we are. That's all I got. Let me know below in the comments what you thought of the episode. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and pound that like button, pound that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell. And I will see you all next time. Have a good one. Bye.